Beloved is a 1987 novel by the American writer Toni Morrison. Set after the American Civil War, 1861-65, it is inspired by the life of Margaret Garner, an African American who escaped slavery in Kentucky in late January 1856 by crossing the Ohio River to Ohio, a free state. Captured, she killed her child rather than have her taken back into slavery. Morrison had come across an account of Garner, a visit to the slave mother who killed her child, in an 1856 newspaper article published in the American Baptist, and reproduced in the Black Book, a miscellaneous compilation of Black history and culture that Morrison edited in 1974. The novel won the Pulitzer Prize for Fiction in 1988 and was a finalist for the 1987 National Book Award. It was adapted as a 1998 movie of the same name, starring Oprah Winfrey. A New York Times survey of writers and literary critics ranked it as the best work of American fiction from 1981 to 2006. The book's dedication reads 60 million and more, referring to the Africans and their descendants who died as a result of the Atlantic slave trade. Characters: Sethe. Sethe is the protagonist of the novel. She is a freed slave from a plantation called Sweet Home. She lives in the house named 124, a house on 124 Bluestone Road but referred to only as 124, which is believed to be haunted because she killed her infant child. Her 2 sons have fled because of the haunting and she resides in the house with her daughter Denver. She is motherly and will do anything to protect her children from suffering the same abuses she had as a slave. Sethe is greatly influenced by her repression of the trauma she endured. She lives with a tree on her back, scars from being whipped. Her character is resilient, yet defined by her traumatic past. Beloved. The opaque understanding of Beloved is central to the novel. She is a young woman who mysteriously appears from a body of water near Sethe's house and is discovered soaking wet on the doorstep by Sethe, Paul D., and Denver. On their return from visiting the fair, they take her in. It is widely believed that she is the murdered baby who haunted 124, as the haunting ends when she arrives, and in many ways she behaves like a child. The murdered baby was unnamed. Her name is derived from the engraving on Sethe's murdered baby's tombstone, which simply read Beloved because Sethe could not afford to engrave the word dearly or anything else. Beloved becomes a catalyst to bring repressed trauma of the family to the surface, but also creates madness in the house and slowly depletes Sethe. Paul D. Paul D. retains his slave name. All the male slaves at Sweet Home were named Paul. Yet he also retains many painful memories of his time as a slave and being forced to live in a chain gang. It is said that his heart is kept in a tobacco tin, as he continuously represses his painful memories. Many years after their time together at Sweet Home, Paul D. and Sethe reunite and begin a romantic relationship. Denver. Denver is Sethe's only child who remains at House 124. Isolated from her community after Beloved's killing, Denver forms a close bond with her mother. Upon Beloved's arrival, Denver watches as her sister's ghost begins to exhibit demonic activity. Although introduced as a childish character, Denver develops into a protective woman throughout the novel. In the final chapters, Denver fights not only for her personal independence, but also for her mother's well-being, breaking the cycle of isolation at House 124. Baby Suggs. Baby Suggs is the elderly mother of Hallie. Hallie works to buy her freedom, after which she travels to Cincinnati and establishes herself as a respected leader in the community. She lived in 124 where the majority of the novel takes place in the present time. After Sethe's act of infanticide, Baby Suggs retires to her deathbed where she develops an obsession with colors and Sethe inherits the house after her death. Hallie. Hallie is the son of Baby Suggs, the husband of Sethe and father of her children. He and Sethe were married in Sweet Home, yet they got separated during her escape. He is not in the present of the novel, but is mentioned in flashbacks. Paul D. was the last to see Hallie, churning butter at Sweet Home. It is presumed he went mad after seeing residents of Sweet Home violating Sethe and raping her of her breast milk. Amy Denver. Amy Denver is a compassionate, young white girl who finds Sethe desperately trying to make her way to safety after her escape from Sweet Home. Sethe is extremely pregnant at the time, and her feet are bleeding badly from the travel. Amy saves Sethe's life, nurturing her back to health. Later, Amy delivers Sethe's daughter on a small boat, and Sethe names the child Denver after her. Plot summary. Beloved begins in 1873 in Cincinnati, Ohio, where the protagonist Sethe, a former slave, has been living with her 18-year-old daughter Denver. Sethe's mother-in-law, Baby Suggs, lived with them until her death 8 years earlier. Shortly before, Sethe's two sons, Howard and Bugler, had run away at the age of 13. Sethe believes they fled because of the malevolent presence of an abusive ghost that has haunted their house at 124 Bluestone Road for years. The story opens with an introduction to the ghost. 124 was spiteful, full of a baby's venom. The book explores the lives of Sethe and her youngest daughter Denver after their escape from slavery, opening in 1873 after the Civil War. Their home in Cincinnati is haunted by a revenant, whom they believe to be the ghost of Sethe's eldest daughter. Because of the haunting, which often involves objects being thrown around the room, Sethe's youngest daughter Denver is shy, friendless, and housebound. Sethe's sons, Howard and Bugler, ran away from home by the age of 13. Baby Suggs, the mother of Sethe's husband Hallie, died in her bed soon afterward, 8 years before the start of the novel. Paul D., one of the slaves from Sweet Home, the plantation where Sethe, her husband Hallie, his mother Baby Suggs and several other slaves once were enslaved, arrives at Sethe's home. He tries to dismiss what he thinks are superstitions. He tries to help the family forget the bitter past, and forces out the spirit. He seems successful at first. He persuades Denver to leave the house for the first time in years. But on the way back, they encounter a young woman sitting in front of the house, calling herself Beloved. Paul D. is suspicious and warns Sethe, but she is charmed by the young woman and ignores him. When made to sleep outside in a shed, Paul D. is cornered by Beloved. While they have sex, his mind is filled with horrific memories from his past. Overwhelmed with guilt, Paul D. tries to tell Sethe about it but cannot. He says that he wants her pregnant. Sethe is apprehensive but eager for the prospect of their relationship. Paul D. resists Beloved and her influence over him. But when he tells friends at work about his plans to start a new family, they react fearfully. Stampede reveals the reason for the community's rejection of Sethe. When Paul D. asks Sethe about it, she tells him what happened. After escaping from Sweet Home and joining her children at her mother-in-law's home, Sethe was found by her master. He tried to reclaim her and her children. Sethe grabbed her children, ran out and tried to kill them all. She succeeded only in killing her eldest daughter, then 2 years old. Sethe said that she was trying to put my babies where they would be safe. Paul D. leaves after this revelation. Without him, time seems suspended. Sethe comes to believe that Beloved is the 2-year-old daughter she had killed. Her tombstone reads only Beloved. Sethe begins to spend carelessly and spoil Beloved out of guilt. Beloved becomes angry and more demanding, throwing tantrums when she doesn't get her way. Beloved's presence consumes Sethe's life to the point where she becomes depleted. She hardly eats, while Beloved grows bigger and bigger, eventually taking the form of a pregnant woman. In the novel's climax, Denver reaches out to the Black community for help. Some village women come to the house to exorcise Beloved. At the same time, a white man comes into view. He had offered Baby Suggs the Cincinnati house as a place to stay after Hallie bought her freedom from their owner. He has come for Denver, who asked him for a job. Denver had not told her mother, and not understanding. Sethe attacks the white man with an ice pick, fearing he is trying to take her daughter. The village women take her over. While Sethe is confused and has a memory of her master coming again, Beloved disappears. Denver becomes a working member of the community and Paul D returns to a bedridden Sethe. Sethe, depleted of life at the disappearance of beloved, remorsefully tells Paul D that beloved was her best thing. Paul D replies that Sethe is her own best thing, leaving Sethe questioning me? Me?